September 22nd, but they have also done a tremendous amount of work. They've looked at 3 instruments. So I just thought I'd give you a quick update on their work. That's the working group. So I've been dealing mostly with Marguerite and their fellow Feline. This is their peacock. So they're looking at people with hand OA and the intervention, pharmacological and non-pharmacological, placebo or standard care controls. And their outcome domain of interest is physical function. So they found 3 instruments that they decided to bring through OFISA. And the first one, the functional index for hand OA, that one did not pass domain match and feasibility. So they had both patient research partners input and their working group input. And they felt that the questions were outdated, the feasibility wasn't the issue. It was more that the domain match wasn't there. So they decided not to, so they stopped at that point and they didn't continue further in the workbook with the whole assessment of all the measurement properties. And then they went through with the AUSCAN and the MHQ, the Michigan Hand Outcomes Questionnaire. So they've submitted their workbooks a couple of times, I think since January. We've been back and forth giving them input, Dorcas and I. They're almost finalized with their 2 SUMPs, and the plan is that they will have that ready to be submitted by December, and their manuscript will go into the proceedings that will be coming out of the virtual 2020 meeting, as will David's and Dinesh's manuscript as well. So I don't have a lot of detail, but just to give you some understanding of that, this is another group that's quite far in our process and almost finished their first domain and their instruments. Dorcas, do you have anything to add?
No, I was wondering if Catherine did, because Catherine, you're part of this group too, right?
Yes, I was a bit surprised because I haven't seen all of the work.
Yeah.
I hadn't shared the workbook, so. But I have been involved with. I was involved with when we did the domain matching, and the FIHOA is quite outdated and really. And of course, the other issue we've got in hand OA is that the AUSCAN, you can't use it without permission from Nick Bellamy. We collected this AUSCAN data in a randomised controlled trial that we've finished a few months ago, but I never got permission to use the AUSCAN data from him. He took a year to reply to me.
And are there any repercussions? Is he giving you a hard time about it now?
So what happened was, it's a kind of a long bit of a sad story.
Okay.
Anyway, but we did make a comparison with the Michigan Hand Outcomes Questionnaire. So that's been really helpful for this process going forward too, I think. It's a shame because the AUSCAN, in my view, is a really good instrument, but it's going to be more and more difficult to use, I think.
That brings up an interesting point, doesn't it? When something is protected like that versus something that's more wide open. I'm not sure if that should ever, I mean, we have to look at the science and the best quality, but availability and usability, I think, is something we should consider.
One thing I might mention is just, you know, since you're running out of instruments and ending up with one, if you're going to have to do any additional work, whether it would be worthwhile looking at the PROMIS upper extremity physical function measure, since it is widely translated and increasingly translated. There's an item bank as well as short forms for that. And it might be something to consider in any future study that you did, the advantage being that it's public domain and you'd never have access problems with it.
Yeah, I think that's right, because we are in a bit of a world of pain, because when you go back to systematic review of the papers on hand OA, a lot of them use AUSCAN. So, but if we're going to have increasing difficulty using it, we've got to move ahead, don't we?
Right. What I'm suggesting is that, again, if you needed to collect new data, that might be an instrument for you to think about collecting and generating data with.
Yeah.
Catherine, do you think it'd be worth us, if you've got the work done and you're worried about not being able to publish it or anything like that, do you think it'd be worth us reaching out to Nick with you to sort of ask permission to use it for your publications around this, the work that you've done for this OMRAC. It's going to end up being positive for him. It means you get to publish your data. And then, you know, the point that's still going to be sticky is around access to the tool. But maybe that'll help sway it.
Yeah, be happy for you to help.